Antifa. This is an entirely imaginary organization. There is not an Antifa.
Like, I don't even know what Antifa is. There is no group.
It's not even like far-right groups like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. Compared to right-wing extremists, Antifa-linked violence is rare and limited.
It isn't an organization. It is in many ways mythology.
It's not like the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers, sort of defined terrorist organizations with leadership that leads violence.
It's not a highly organized movement. It's a moniker. It's not a unified group like the Proud Boys are. Things like Antifa are things that are thought up.
It's all in this guise of going after Antifa, which is nothing. There's no organization called Antifa.
Nobody's a member of Antifa because it doesn't exist. They are just declaring into existence something that doesn't exist.
There is no Antifa organization, so maybe that's good for social media, but it really is non-existent.
They exist on the internet in chat rooms and in 4chan and Discord and places like that, where they run discussion boards, trade tactics, documents, things like that. But none of them are called Antifa.
But should we be flying less now?
We should be taking into account the impact of our flying on the planet now. And that's
pushing up the tax on flying.
You push up the tax on flying, you push up the cost on transport, and that's in part what putting a price on carbon is.
Queso, no cheese! No queso, no cheese! You hear me? No queso, no cheese! Get back! No! My eyes! I can't see! No queso, no cheese! No queso, no cheese! No queso, no cheese! Back it up! Back it up! No cheese!
Dude, what the hell is that?
No queso, no cheese. Hey, listen, at the end of the day, I think somebody said that the third one was AI. And we always play the introduction. We always end up talking about the introduction because unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, that's why we're here. We have to welcome everybody to the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. Let's go into the breach. We're probably going to move from Thursday nights. It's inconvenient, unfortunately, for Joe and myself. So we'll probably be going on Sundays moving forward around this time-ish, if you get the ish part. Joe, let's talk about a couple things before we get to the meat of what's really like sticking in my stomach right now. Is Mark Carney. Okay.
Oh.
What is it going to take for people to understand that environmentalism and the environmentalist hoax is designed to rule your life? Oh, that's right. We're gonna push up the cost, right? Because you want to take more money away from working class and middle class people. So what it costs you to drive your car, what it costs you to fly coach, because you ain't flying first class, in an airplane, if you want to see family, because everybody's family's all over the place now. You got to fly to see them on the weekends and things like that. When are people going to wake up? Joe, it's a sincere question. I'm not even trying to be rhetorical. When are people going to finally wake up to and understand Mark Carney and everyone like him, John Kerry, all of them? They are pushing the hoax just like they did with COVID. They're pushing a hoax for one thing, to gain wealth and gain wealth for themselves and control over you. I don't think I'm wrong here.
Joe, it's a religion. It's their religion. Every human soul has something within itself to live for something bigger than themselves. I'm Catholic. I live for Christ. They created a God. It's their God. And they treat it like a religion. It's also a means by which they're moving forth on an ideology. And they're doing it. Don't take my word for it. Follow the news in Europe. They're much further along, and now Canada is in the grips of it. And we're going to talk about this today. As a result, the quality of life has gone down in Canada dramatically. And this is a warning for all the Americans who are watching this show. In a matter of 9 years, Canada has basically dropped off the cliff. It only took 9 years. And that man is dead serious. Dead serious. He is going to grind the average Canadian person into the dirt. And that is what's happened in Europe. And frankly, that is exactly what Kamala Harris was going to do here. Period. End of story. And sadly, Joe, people aren't paying attention. They just don't pay attention. I've been following politics closely now for 7 years. I'm convinced it's all about propaganda. We just saw that clip in the introduction. Nothing more than propaganda. Whoever has the better propaganda machine to hypnotize the masses wins. And that is it, because people just follow along right off the cliff. And that's exactly what happened in Canada.
Let me ask you a question just about, and I appreciate what you're saying. And the thing is, too, and we're going to play a clip in a little bit where it's going to show not only the attitude in Canada on the part of the oligarchs, but numbers, real numbers. See, this is what I mean. Like you say, Joe, people are ignorant. Okay, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way. Some people just don't know. Too busy working, too busy raising their families. I don't blame them. Okay, you and I have the blessing of being able to take a few hours a week out to do this show. Okay, but we have the same concerns. Okay, now my point is, but when you go from, and we're going to show it in a little bit, when you go from an average income in Canada in the 80s of thousands, okay, let's say 80,000 ish area, down to about 55. I think you ought to wake up. I'm not trying to be judgmental towards people, but when your income gets cut by a third, because Mark Carney, who's Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, is he a billionaire or somewhere in that vicinity?
He's very wealthy.
Very wealthy. Very wealthy. Maybe billionaire-ish. Joe, ish is the theme for the show today. Ish. I like ish at the front line with Joe and Joe. Do they realize that this guy is telling you straight up, if you drive your car, it's going to cost you a lot of money, and we don't give a crap?
To your point, that's what people should be saying. But again, people also are not grounded in something that is substantive. They're grounded in ideologies. You see that in America. How long has the Democratic Party tortured the African-American community in inner cities, yet they vote for them?
Right.
I mean, like, you're talking about decades, dude.
Right.
Decades. After a while, you got to just say to yourself, is this working out for me? Is this working out? We're on the fourth generation of disaster, and it's not. But people, when they're not moored in something that's substantive, i.e. God, i.e. something real, you get attached to an ideology, an identity, and you hold on to that identity no matter what. You'll look past certain things, even when they're staring you in the face, like you have no food in your refrigerator. Like your kids can't get a proper education and they're functionally illiterate at 16.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you'll ignore it. And
Joe,
this is the sad thing about human nature. And I'll be honest with you, politicians understand a lot more about you than you understand about yourself.
Why does humanity keep proving the oligarchs right? Romans said, give them bread and circuses. Sadly, they were right. Okay. Look at what we have nowadays. We have, and again, I'm not beating up on the UFC, but two guys beating the crap out of each other with no gloves on and kicking
it's horrible.
And beating it and punching them when they're down.
How about two women doing it?
I know, which is even worse.
It's horrible.
But here's the thing. Let's pivot for a second back to the first clip. Okay. And remember, the title of this show is Obama Says the Quiet Part Out Loud. Okay. See, he's the liar in chief. All right. And the rest of the people that we showed in the first clip talking about Antifa. All right. Antifa, whatever. They're all liars. Jesus said, that your father or the devil is a liar and a murderer from the beginning. Okay. How much more of the lies do you have to see? You got 10 people on the screen, Joe, that you put up, and there's probably 100 saying the same damn thing that they know to be a lie. Antifa is a real organization. Real people got killed by them. Okay. Why? Because they're more clandestine, but they're out in the open. And where am I going with this? because Obama and his media allies are nothing. Their father is the devil, who is the father of lies and a murderer from the beginning. They go out there. What about Kyle Rittenhouse? What did he do? Shoot some random kid? No, he shot an Antifa member. Who shot the cop in Dallas? Okay. Oh no, that might have been BLM, but same thing. All right. They're all cut from the same cloth. Antifa is a real organization. And then they turn around and went, the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers were a reaction to Antifa because they know Antifa. They could see them. We could all see them with their eyes. We can't see their faces, of course, but we could see with our eyes how they look, what they do, how they act. All right. Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys came about as a reaction to that. Okay. Proud Boys didn't just go out into the street and start beating the crap out of unidentified people. When they punched somebody in the face, it was somebody wearing a mask who was identifying as Antifa. Yet all those people get on there, Joe, and they all trumpet the same damn lie. And here's my point, and we'll talk about Obama in a little bit at the front line with Joe and Joe. They all know they're lying. Every one of them. God help those people.
Except the people who listen to it, who believe it. If you say something enough and you say it loud enough, people believe it. It's just a propaganda machine. And that's sad. And here's another thing. You talk about Antifa, you talk about the Proud Boys, all this other nonsense. They shouldn't exist. Our government should never have permitted any of those vigilanteisms to exist. We tolerate this. We're imbeciles. I said this when Trump was elected in his first term. He should have went into Minneapolis and arrested everyone, the police. Waltz, when you don't do your job to keep people safe, that is the primary function of government, is to keep people safe. You are an impediment to the law and you should have been arrested. Why do we tolerate this? We're foolish. This doesn't go on in a lot of places in the world, and that doesn't make you a fascist. I have no problem with you voicing your opinion. I have no problem with you protesting. That's not what you're doing. You're burning things. You're hurting people. You have killed people. Sorry. You're not going to do that. And by any means necessary, we're squashing it. You'll get the point after you either go to jail or, frankly, you get hurt. Because we're not allowing you to hurt other people. That doesn't make me a fascist. That makes me someone who's upholding the law.
It makes you an American.
And that it makes you, to be honest with you, just common sense.
Common sense.
And that's not what's going on.
No,
and we tolerate it continuously. And frankly, I don't understand. I don't understand why you would tolerate that. I wouldn't tolerate that in my own house.
Joe, they still look, when people have been using the word Marxism for decades, quasi-Marxism, Marxist, neo-Marxist, Gramsciites, Deutschkeites, long march through the institutions. We've talked about that a million times here at the show. Joe, we know what they want. They believe, like that group of people that we just played, which was either politicians like Dan Goldman or media personalities like Jimmy Kimmel, right? They believe and they have to desire, because here's the logic. Antifa, BLM, all those groups, okay? They want civil unrest. How do they do that? Go take down statues of things that are going to offend people. Christopher Columbus and others. They tried to do it in St. Louis, and thanks to E. Michael Jones and Roman Catholics, they didn't do it in St. Louis. They want a Marxist takeover. They really believe that they are in the position because of they don't believe in God, because of some mystery of the universe, that they're enlightened enough to run the show and control everybody's life. All those people on that screen, they all want that civil unrest, because the more civil unrest, here's the short version of the logic, the more civil unrest, the more power the government could give to itself.
That's 100% correct, Joe. And people don't see that.
And by the way, conservatives did it too. With the Department of Homeland Security, with the fear after 9/11, okay? They instilled fear in people. That's why we have FISA courts. That's why we have an erosion of our liberties and our rights, because of fear. So the right has, at the very least, the right might not be as much deliberate about it, but they certainly are complicit in all this.
Joe, that's what people don't see. They're basically destabilizing every city in America. And by doing that, you hit it right on the head. They're going to have to take more power for themselves. In fact, people are going to give it to them. And that's exactly the goal. They are trying. And again, I can hear people, you're a conspiracy. No, I'm not. I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention. These people are trying to basically change the way America functions. They do not believe in the way America was founded. When Obama said change, he meant it.
He meant it.
Obama does not believe in the founding of America. He wants to change it. Nor does AOC, nor does Bernie Sanders.
But you and me have been hearing that our whole lives because we've been told, we've heard from the time we were kids in high school and maybe not in grammar schools, but high school, certainly college, the argument that America, why should I listen to a bunch of dead white European men? That's their excuse for saying that they don't value the Constitution. They're telling you that they find the founding of this country fundamentally corrupt.
100%.
Okay.
And this is my point. And they're basically destroying the country from within. And in many ways, they're succeeding.
No,
Joe, they're succeeding.
Well,
and
are they? I want to make a quick point to you, but here's the thing: given that clip of those 10 people talking about Antifa doesn't exist, Antifa doesn't exist, Antifa doesn't exist, but the law of unintended consequences is, as much as they've gone out to do that, they have not been able, and we're going to talk about it later with Obama, they have not been able to stifle the First Amendment. They have not been able to take away our right to free speech. Even the social media companies like Facebook have relaxed their restrictions. YouTube, to a degree, or Google, I should say, has done the same thing. Elon Musk took over Twitter. See, it's the law of unintended consequences. They make that clip thinking everybody's just going to just shut up and believe them. And then what do people do? They go on, like you and me, they go on social media and they say, no, you're full of crap. You're actually lying through your teeth. What are your thoughts on that?
Ultimately, X, particularly, because to be honest with you, I don't trust Zuckerberg with Facebook. He basically, that was a survival mechanism. He had to, because Trump is now the president. Bezos did the same thing with the Washington Post. X, however, was the game changer. X opened up the conversation. They never planned on that. That was the curveball they never, ever intended to happen. And that was devastating to countries all over the world, not just America, all over the world, that has impacted them. Yeah. And they have to censor. When they lose control of the messaging, they have to censor. We're going to talk about that later. Right. But ultimately, again, just focusing what you said, because it's spot on. Joe, they have destroyed the major cities of America. Los Angeles is a wasteland. Chicago is a wasteland.
New York's about to become even worse.
Yes, it is. And that's where all our money comes from, Joe. You see, this is not Palookaville, Arkansas. No offense to Arkansas. New York drives the economy of America.
But the government, here's my only caveat to that, Joe, is that you're right. It's a major center, financial, otherwise. Let's keep it with the finances. But those people are still so self-interested that if they go too far in New York, which they may very well do, they'll leave.
Yeah, but here's the correct. But at the same time, businesses also aren't tied to America anymore. Like, this could have impact. And that's why he's there. You see, people don't see that. This is a huge victory for the radical left, Mamdani. A huge victory. Yeah. This is not a small event. This is a major city. And why do you think Soros concentrates? He's not concentrating on friggin' Toledo, Ohio. He's concentrating on Atlanta, on Chicago, on Los Angeles, on San Francisco.
Right.
This impacts America.
Yep.
And that is nothing to sneeze at, dude.
No, it's no.
This is what I'm saying. Why do we tolerate this? Because stupid is what we are.
Well,
We're stupid.
That's a whole other conversation that we can have on another show here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe about the corruption of American education. Was a deliberate attempt. Again, we mentioned Antonio Gramsci a million times on this show. One of the institutions you must take over in the long march, okay? Gramsci, Deutsche, is the education system.
And they have.
They have done it in spades. I do want to make one final point, and then we're going to move on. We got Canada. We got New York politics. We're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to play our friend John Kennedy. Then we got to talk about Barry Obama. That's Barry, all right? Barry Obama wants to take away your right to free speech. I do want to make one point from my heart, Joe. I'll be very quick. When Kyle Rittenhouse shot, you mentioned religion and false gods, all right, that Antifa and others, these young kids, because their heads are not on straight. When Kyle Rittenhouse shot that kid, and there's a clip that you could find of him dying with all of them around him. He had a bullet in his head. Literally had a bullet in his head. Joe, I remember thinking at the time watching it, and it pertains to what you just said. Where is your God? What God are you dying for, young man? What did you do to your life that you're going to die in the street like a dog, fighting for a lie? And people like those media people, Joe.
Oh, they could care less.
That's the sad,
Joe. That's the sickest part of it all. They brainwashed a generation, and they're nothing more than tools. That, by the way, they're going to be impoverished. Don't believe me? Look in Europe. Don't believe me? Look in Canada. You'll be impoverished. You won't have teeth by the time you're 60. Yeah. This is the truth. You won't be you'll basically eke out a living in a small tenement apartment. That is the future that they're offering you.
That is
this is the sick part. People vote for it, Joe.
Right.
They're so good at it.
Joe, when you and I started this,
you to vote against your own interests, and people somehow tell themselves they're not going to be affected. It's the saddest thing I have ever witnessed in my entire life.
Joe, remember the reason why we started doing this show, The Frontline with Joe and Joe, and what we said. And it wasn't just some sketchy, I don't even know if it's catchy or not. It wasn't just a throwaway line. We're playing our part in our small way, hopefully in a much bigger way in the future. If you like, subscribe, and share to The Frontline with Joe and Joe, you could help us get out to a wider audience. Joe, our job is to try to raise people's consciousness. Whether it be as Catholics, whether it be as Americans, whether it be as just people who understand that there is an order and meaning and purpose to life, and everything that's going on out there is anti-order, anti-meaning, anti-purpose, ultimately because it's anti-Christ. But let's keep it with Canada for a minute, okay? You just mentioned Canada. Let's go there.
Fortunately, what that means is that unless something else changes, our incomes will be lower than they otherwise would have been. They'll grow, but they'll grow along a lower. This was the old path. Now there's a new path, which is below the old path. There are things the country can do to try to bend that curve up, but those aren't things monetary policy can do. These are more structural changes. I mean, fundamentally, as a senior deputy governor has hammered many times, we need to get our productivity growth up. And if we can do that as a country, we can bend that curve up. So, I mean, I think what's most concerning is that unless we change some other things, our standard of living as a country, Canadians, is going to be lower than it otherwise would have been.
When you think about per capita, think about standard of living of yourself or the average individual in Canada. Used to be equal with the United States. Today, after the last 10 years, Canada's per capita GDP is between 28th and 33rd in the world, from third in the world. And the amount of money that we make vis-a-vis an American is just $56,000 in US dollars versus $89,000 for the average person in the US as a whole. If you look at Ontario, which is one of Canada's richest province, it is a GDP equal to the poorest state now in the United States, which is Mississippi. But a starker contrast, and this one sort of hit home in looking at this a few months ago, British Columbia's per capita GDP is just $56,000. Just cross the border into Washington State, and the per capita GDP there is double that of BC at $108,000.
Now, the clip goes on longer, but really, think about it. What more do you need to say to
Yo,
people in Canada?
these
in
are
particular?
money. They're not pundits. That's money talk. There's facts. That's statistics. It's sick. And that is a message to the Americans. That was 10 years. It went from 3rd to 28. Don't think that that can't happen here. These people do not believe in regular people. They believe in an ideology. Mark Carney. I mean, we've been banging this drum on the Canada drum. I don't even for 5 years. You want to talk about the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life. How people voted for that man. It was so transparently clear he was going to level you, and he did. And he's going to continue to do it. This is what globalism is. This is the message coming out of the WEF. This is the message that's being pounded down the throats in the EU. This is what they all want. By the way, that guy, the first guy, he's rich. It doesn't affect him. It affects you. And the best part about it, Joe, is people vote for it. It's sick.
How does someone vote for? How does someone vote for what is objectively clear? These are statistics. When they could see plain as day what that gentleman just described, the second gentleman, where incomes are going down, and then go back to our first clip where we played Mark Carney telling you, yeah, but the cost of energy is going to go up. At what point do you say, I got kids?
Oh, they don't care.
I
Joe, that's
don't
another
get
thing.
it.
Get that out of anyone. They don't care. This is another thing. That's another which makes it even sadder. They pretend. We'll take it to like what's going on in the United States. SNAP benefits could care less. They could care less that you can't eat. You're nothing more than a means. You're a leverage tool that they're using to basically bring about an ideology. They could care less. They'll step over your kid's dead body, starve to death on the sidewalk. Who cares? It's sick. And again, the best part about it, Joe, we vote for it.
Right.
They convince you to vote against your own interests. I say this constantly. I feel like I honestly, I'm not going to pretend like I'm the smartest person on the earth because I'm not. But I'm not dumb. And I say this to my wife all the time. I wish I was stupid because I could skip through life and not know what's going on. I see what's going on and it tortures me.
Right.
Because I see it as clear as day. It's like watching a drug addict destroy himself in front of you. It's sick and it's sad.
Right. No, it absolutely is. And you're at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. We're way in the breach. We're going on Sundays from now on. So we're in the midst of this shutdown, but it's always good to get a little bit of humor, Joe.
That's how I predict Schumer's going to get out of it. I could be wrong, but I think we're not going to budge. And he's going to be forced to go to 6 or 8 of his Democratic Senate colleagues and say, look, I need a favor. Vote to get me out of this shutdown.
Yeah.
He said, now, he's going to tell them, now, look, I got to vote no.
Yeah.
And I got to dog cuss you a little bit. We got to make it. We got to have some play acting and make this look good. And then we come out of the shutdown. But Bernie, you know, he's tough. But the danger for Bernie, I'm serious. What he's got to watch, he doesn't want to look like he's had a mutiny.
Yeah.
Because then he's weaker than when he went in.
Yeah. Right.
And he wasn't strong then.
You know, the difference between, go ahead, Joe.
I want to add to that. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. And I want to also point this out because I posted about this yesterday. They know they lost the argument. All the data is in, even on CNN. America is not buying it. They lost the argument on the shutdown. Trump won the argument. Why are they holding out? They're waiting for Mamdani to win because he needs this as a talking point. You watch what happens. Mamdani wins on Tuesday. By Friday, they sign the CR, the clean CR. They take the loss on the CR. They take the win on the fall of the largest economic engine in America. They know what they're doing. And here's another thing for all the people. Barry Obama put on Twitter, 14 million views. Oh, people can't eat. Could as if they care. They should have signed that a while ago. They're holding out. Your kids aren't eating, and they know it, and they could care less because they're using it as leverage. Could care less.
Right.
And it's sick, Joe. It's red hot, evil sick.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. Let me make a couple shout outs here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Sean Marie is with us. Tumble Cycle. How are you, Tumble Cycle? A lot of comments going on there. Steven's with us here. Kathy Sharp. Good to see you guys. So yeah, we're way in the breach here. I mean, there's a lot going on. You're right about the shutdown. They ultimately, it all comes down to the same thing. All the people like us are talking about is we're telling them through all these different stories that we find and everything else is that we know your game. We know exactly what you're going to try to do. Trying to convince other people, why are you allowing to? Why would a blue collar person?
Joe.
Why would a blue collar person in New York vote for Mamdani? In fact, they're not really, because Mamdani's going to get the 32 or 33% of radicals, and that's why he's going to win. I quite frankly, though, can I throw out maybe a controversial idea? I don't know if it's controversial. You tell me in the chat room. You tell me, Joe. If I'm my brother-in-law and my sister live in Queens, okay, and they're both out, let's call it conservative, right of center, all right. If I'm them, I'm not voting for Cuomo, and let the city be damned. I'm not voting for Cuomo. He's part of the reason why there's a Mamdani to begin with, okay, because the Democrats have strayed so far. He's actually trying to go. He's out there calling himself a centrist, Andrew Cuomo.
Well, compared to Mamdani, he is.
The devil's a centrist compared to Mamdani.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I like Curtis Sliwa. I do. I think he's a great guy, and he's a great American. He's given so much to New York City. He's been hurt. He protected his organization, protected people on the subway. New York is not going to vote for a man like Curtis Sliwa. There's too many Looney Tunes. Cuomo isn't going to help the situation. But Cuomo is not going to destroy the city. He's not going to destroy it. It's bad enough de Blasio was the mayor of New York. This guy's going to make de Blasio look like friggin'
Giuliani.
That's right. And this is my point. And here's the thing. It's just sad.
Yeah.
Joe, and this is where politics can't fix this. Our people are not well. They're not thinking straight. Any person who understands history knows that these ideas don't work. They don't. And any person who understands the consequences of these ideas would not vote for such a person.
Well, then they don't understand. It.
And that's part of that is because they control the media, they control the schools, and we allowed that to happen.
Well, that's why. That's why I really get again. I'm going to just allude again to the long march. In other words, why is it that we hear conservatives and Republicans say, "Well, things take time"? No, they don't. It takes will, is what it takes.
100%.
It takes political will. Who have we talked to at this show? But who's smarter? Who's more intelligent and insightful than Professor Patrick Deneen? He says conservatives don't know how to use power. Because they think that to be conservative, you're not supposed to use, now I'm paraphrasing him, that you're not supposed to use government power because that goes against your conservatism.
See, I don't believe I think the conservatives are full of crap.
I'm talking about I'm talking about like his description of why conservatives, like, why is it that they're
because they've been bought. You see, Joe, our country works on that system. You see, everyone in power has been bought by lobbies. Nick Fuentes talks about this. It's not just the ADL. It's all of them. It's the NRA. It's the teachers. It's the Teamsters. It's pay to play. And they're conservatives. They basically give you money. And now you're even hearing it that talking heads on social media are starting to get basically courted by money to say, do this, we'll give you this. This is how it works. And how we've allowed that to happen as a country, as in we think that that's just standard operating procedure, is the craziest thing I've ever heard of in my life. Why do you think the Koch brothers give to both the Republicans and the Democrats? They don't care who wins. They're buying influence. Why do you think the NRA gives money? They're buying influence. Do you think they give money to people because they like them? No. Why does like the teachers union, the NEA, give money to AOC? They don't care about her. They're buying influence. That should never be allowed. And as long as that's allowed, we're going to have a country that basically doesn't represent the people, which it doesn't. And this is another thing. People actually think, this is the sick part. I used to be one of them. My eyes are wide open now. They're not going to help you. They don't represent you. If I give you $10 million for a specific purpose and it goes against Joe Pasilla's purpose, who are you going to listen to? Me, because I gave you money. And that's how it works. Mm-hmm. They're all full of crap. The system no longer works for people. Bernie Sanders is very right about that. If I was in the Senate, we would agree on that part. We just don't agree on the solution. The solution is a moral capitalistic society where people are formed and grounded in God and live in a capitalistic system, basically living up to their potential, i.e. caring about your neighbor. That works. We were told by John Adams from the beginning, the country doesn't work for amoral or irreligious people. He told us that in 1776. Why does that change now? It doesn't.
It doesn't.
And it's not going to. No. This is the thing. That's why politics can't fix this.
Well,
it can't fix it.
People have to pivot their thinking. They have to change their thinking. They have to shed. Listen, I watch a lot of stuff. You watch a lot of stuff. You see, like we talk about, and we could blast the young people like in New York that are going to vote for Mamdani or any iteration of a Mamdani in other cities. The fact is, but you also got to remember too, when you watch some of these videos, the people that are yelling at the young conservatives are a lot of crusty old boomers. 65, 70, 75 years old that refuse to drop their. See, you and me, I don't care. I don't give a crap what anybody says about us. I could look at myself in the mirror. I am not ideological.
Neither am I.
No, that's what I'm saying. I was going to say you too. We are commonsensical people who look at things and say, what is a good solution to this? Ultimately, you're exactly right, is we have to get our heads on straight and get grounded in God. But the thing is, you got these crusty old boomers, Joe. They're not dropping their ideology.
No, I know that. That's part of that is the Chamber of Commerce Republicans. And the boomers also think through the lens of when they came out of high school. Things have changed. Like the job market has changed. AI has taken away jobs. I've watched jobs disappear my whole career. I've watched it happen my whole entire career. Jobs leaving New York City. Jobs that 30, 40 years ago were there in abundance. They're gone.
Yeah.
And they're going to continue to go. And that's what they can't get out of their head. They actually still think it's like that period of time where you get out of college, you get a job, you sacrifice. No. College debt. A friend of mine just went to Fordham. His kid's thinking about, he's a doctor, but he's talking about sending his kid to Fordham. $92,000 a year to send your kid to Fordham. I'll be honest with you. Now, he's rich. That's a different story. Even if you go to Fordham and you're studying physics, which is like a thinking degree, you could do anything, you're brilliant. Coming out with $400,000 with a BA in physics isn't going to cut it. You're going to be living in your parents' basement for a long, long time. Not every job pays $300,000, $400,000, $600,000. You might get a job making $150,000, even $180,000.
You're lucky.
But if you do, it still doesn't cut it. You're not going to start a life. Meanwhile, you're smarter than 95, 97% of America. This is where we're at. And that's what the boomers can't understand. They can't get that through their head. They still think that somehow you could, there are a percentage of people that do, but those people, frankly, go to ridiculous schools like Yale, Harvard, Columbia, and frankly, many of them, their parents are paying for their college outright. They have no debt. So if you're a regular person, you just happen to be smart, like when I graduated high school and you did something like that, you could make it. Now it's next to impossible, and the boomers can't get that through their head because I talk to them at work. And they still think like, oh, no, you can go to Villanova and you could get a degree in accounting and come out with $400,000 in debt.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Wake up.
Yeah,
wake up.
Wake up is right. But staying on New York for a second. Now, I want everybody out there who's listening to us at the Front Line with Joe and Joe to hold your stomach, because I'm going to play a clip that involves Jessica Tarloff and I hesitate
This is
to
a
call her-
telling clip, though.
I know, Governor Kathy Hochul. I call her governor begrudgingly. Let's play the clip. We'll come right back.
Know that Mamdani does want to tax the rich more, bring it up about 2%. He can't do that. We know that Mamdani does want to tax the rich more, bring it up about 2%. He can't do that on his own. You've previously said that you wouldn't be raising taxes. Have you reconsidered that stance?
No, I would say one energetic rally does not get me to change my positions, I assure you. But I do hear people's voices. I process what everybody says, but I'm also have to balance governing this state and making sure that those people who are actually the reason we have a generous, supportive budget that helps lift people up, it's their revenues that we tax. 1.5% of New Yorkers cover about a third of our budget. That's enormous. I'm concerned about outmigration of people who are the ones who are supporting our budget. I cannot make up for that with middle class tax increases. I cannot do that to the middle class and the struggling New Yorkers. So this is the balance. I mean, this is my position.
That's a telling clip.
Pretty interesting. What are your thoughts?
Well, ultimately, New York City, this is out of the mouth of Andrew Cuomo during the COVID crisis, are the most mobile citizens in America. Why does he say that? Because they're rich. If you're uber rich, if I'm worth $60 million, I could move in a second, anywhere. I could live anywhere. And that's a lot of people in New York City. Why would you tolerate being taxed more? And she's aware of that because the New York tax revenue is supporting all of upstate New York. And that's how she stays in her seat. So it's a concern. But here's the thing. It's not just about tax. Mamdani's anti-police. Mamdani is also talking about raising the minimum wage, which is going to close mom and pop stores all through New York City. Mamdani is also talking about a free bus system, which is basically going to create a mobile homeless shelter. And no one's going to go on the buses because they're not going to be able to.
Again, like you said earlier, by design. It's by design.
So what does that do? It drives people out of New York City, the wealthy. Now, where do they go? They'll go into the suburbs. They'll go to the Bronx, Bronxville. They'll go to Westchester. They'll go to Bergen County. They'll go to Morris County. They'll go to Essex County, New Jersey. But it destroys in New York City, all by design, creating chaos. They know what they're doing. And this is the thing. Do we? I don't think we do, Joe. This is the sick part. I don't think we do. And here's the funny part. You'll hear people who live like by me. They're like, oh, they'll just move to the suburbs and my house will be worth more money. Yeah. The only reason why your house is worth any money is because it's next to New York City, you dummy. If New York City turns into friggin' Calcutta, your house is worth friggin' 3 cents. You dummy.
Right.
And this is what I'm saying. Like, everyone looks at it from their stupid little private lens. Oh, I'll be safe. My house will just be worth more money. All the people are going to come and live by me. Yeah. If New York City turns into a wasteland, your house is going to be worth nothing. Right. Or you're going to go into New York City and you're going to get killed. You stupid ass.
Right.
And this is what I'm saying. And we vote for it. This is the best part, Joe.
I mean,
we vote for it.
We vote for it.
They convince you to vote against your own interest.
And you work in the city. And
I work in the city. It's already a wasteland. And this is what I'm saying. Joe, I swear, I just wish I was stupid. I wish I was stupid so I didn't have to see it.
But I'm glad you're not.
I know, but I'm just saying.
I like you at the show.
It keeps me up at night because I actually have to see it. And like, I watch people destroy themselves. And here's the thing. It affects me. It affects my kids. it affects them. This is the sad part too. And I don't want that either.
Right. No, I know. And I don't know. I mean, the company that I work for, which I will not name because I don't want to get doxxed, they have locations, let's just say, all over the country. And I started at the one in New York City. This dude tries to jack the minimum wage up to $20 an hour or whatever the case
You're going
might
to shut
be.
down, Joe.
Listen, this guy makes good money at the location in New York City. I wouldn't be surprised if he shut down.
Why would you, Joe? You can't be profitable. Like if you're going to pay, I'm going to make it up, they make the minimum wage $30 an hour. You're going to pay a dishwasher $30 an hour. You're going to shut down. You're going to shut down. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Businesses are going to leave.
Right.
And the whole appeal of New York City for people, the wealthy, is you have all that. Everything at your disposal. You have the opera, you have the restaurants, you have the culture. Well, if you can't stay profitable, people don't open a restaurant to not be profitable. If they can't be profitable, they're going to close. You dummy.
Right.
It's just sick. Joe, it's just sick.
Well, no, and I don't know how this whole thing is going to unfold. Perhaps, like you said, Mamdani, he could do a lot of damage within New York City. Somebody made a point in the chat room real quick. Female KC Royals fan. Love you. Thanks for joining us, as always. Mayors don't have the authority to raise taxes in a state, but he's a typical socialist, tax are rich. He'll do whatever he can. I'll put it like that. But remember, his goal is not to raise revenues to do anything good for the city. As Joe pointed out, George Soros has backed this guy along with other radicals. They backed this guy because they want him to destroy the city.
That's right.
They
Just like what's going on in Chicago.
Right.
Same thing.
Mean, can you imagine how are they going to explain to all the black and Hispanics who live up in Harlem, who live in Brooklyn, who live in Queens, that when you get on a bus, that the homeless, okay, who, yes, stink. And I say this because I worked in the city my entire adult life, okay? They stink. I was on the subway. They're violent. They're unhinged. They're addicted. They're lost people. How do you expect some 50-year-old black woman, okay, who's got a daughter or two in
because
college,
they don't care,
to get on a bus with somebody who stinks
could
to high
care
heaven?
less. Guess who's not getting on that bus? Mamdani. Guess who's not getting on that bus? Frigging Hochul.
Right.
You are. They don't care. You see, that's the sick part. And this is another aspect that drives me nuts. There's actually true believers that actually think that these people care about them. Right. I watch that and I just sit to myself. I can't say that I laugh to myself. It's one of the saddest things I've ever seen in my friggin' life. Yeah. They don't care. They're pushing an ideology just like they did in Canada, just like they did in Europe. You're just in the way. And they're convincing you to vote against your own interest. It's the sick. Joe, I swear, it's like watching the Twilight Zone. Zombies. It's sick.
Well, I would say this, because remember the law of unintended consequences, okay, is that the last time New York had a real disastrous mayor, because I think David Dinkins was even
he was
worse
a horror
than de Blasio.
show.
He was a horror show. The reaction to that was Rudy Giuliani. And Rudy Giuliani ran as a, okay, we don't like it, but pro-choice in a limited way, liberal Republican, but a law and order mayor. We're going to restore order in this city. It is a disaster. And, and that was part of Rudy Giuliani's appeal was that he was not David Dinkins. So again, I'm not wishing ill upon New Yorkers, but you get what you deserve. You won't back Curtis Sliwa. You'll go and vote for Andrew Cuomo, who's really a scumbag. Let's call it real. Andrew Cuomo, I wouldn't vote for him, Joe. If I lived in New York, I'm going to suffer the consequences, figure out a way to get out of there. If I lived in New York, I got into New Jersey.
That's easier said than done, Joe, because here's the thing. People have careers. Like you have kids dug into school systems. You're not
Joe,
single. This is what I'm saying. Like this is not just like a random person. You're just going to uproot your life People have families, kids.
Joe,
And
listen.
here's the thing. It's not just about New York. It's the largest economic engine in America. By the way, it's New York, Chicago, and LA. They've destroyed the 3 big cities. Do you understand the consequences of that? Does anyone think about that? This is not a like I win, you lose political game. This is the country loses. And it's happening. And people are sleeping. And it's sick. It's sick.
Well, I agree with you on that. Joe, I'm not disagreeing with you, but the fact is this. I got out and it wasn't inexpensive. It cost me money.
I get it.
Sacrifice. I happen to be in an industry where, I happen to be in an industry that's something where there's kind of money to be made all over the country. So the thing is, like, I was pretty much assured that at least my income would stay the same, even though I'm going to a lower income state. And again, I'm only saying I understand and agree with everything you're saying as far as your kids are in school and everything else. But at some point, is my point to you, at some point, people will start saying, well, I'm going to have to bite the bullet.
Well, that's happened. I mean, we had a guest on the show. She lived in Pasadena. She runs a publishing company. She moved out. She moved to Kentucky. She lived in Pasadena. Pasadena is beautiful, dude. She's a California person. She went to Stanford. She moved to Kentucky. So, I mean, ultimately, obviously, if things completely get untenable, people have to leave. But that should not have to happen in America.
Right. You're in New Jersey. You should be able to live in New Jersey for the rest of your life.
Why
your
did
kids
we
have a better
allow
life
this?
than you.
Because here's the deal. If we see through what's going on, don't tell me that the powers that be don't see it either. And why are you permitting it? George Soros should have been shown the door of this country years ago. I would have threw his ass out of America. I would have taken his passport and said, pound salt somewhere else, get lost. You step back in this country, I'm arresting you at the airport. We're dummies. We allow it to happen. We allowed all of this to happen for decades, sleeping at the wheel because we drive our little stupid SUV and we have a little bit of comfort and some food in the refrigerator and we fall asleep at the wheel. Meanwhile, the country's falling apart. It's falling apart.
Well, that's
and it's sick.
No, it is. And the thing is too, and as we said many times here at the front line with Joe and Joe, as Catholics, we understand that many of our prelates, not all, but many in the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops are not responsive to the people in the church, the lay people in the church, because if you say, well, I'm not going to give money to my parish or to the diocese, then they turn around, they don't care because they were getting hundreds of millions of dollars from the federal government to fund their programs. And it's the same thing. If the government is not responsive to people like us because they don't care, because we don't give them anything, because they get money from all the people that you mentioned earlier, whether it's left or right or anywhere in between, they're getting money from somewhere else. That's why in the case of the Catholic bishops and in the case of the government, the spigot needs to be shut off. The only way to do that as far as government is public financing of campaigns. You have to have public financing. That's it. The NRA wants to give $50 million to Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz has to say, sorry, the law now is I get money. It's part of our budget. I, as a senator, and this way. And when they knock on the door and say, hey, Ted, can you say, well, no, I'm not doing it.
Joe, you're 100% right. You think they fought Donald Trump? If you actually proposed that, they would kill you. Like if a candidate seriously got traction on that, not only it would be the Republicans and the Democrats, they would hang you from the tree in your front lawn.
Right.
But you just solved the problem. That's one of the top, say, 3 to 5 things that has to get done. No more campaign financing outside of mom and pop. You take away all the leverage. You level the playing field, but that'll never happen. Ted Cruz isn't voting for that. He'll come across with 700 different excuses.
Right.
Same with Bernie Sanders.
Right.
Because they're all full of crap. They all should be in jail.
That will unite, Joe. That will do something that never happens. That will unite the right and the left
It would.
in the government.
Correct. And that is where people have to understand that you are getting flushed down the toilet with your purple-headed, nose-ringed neighbor. You're in the same toilet bowl. You're not in the club.
Right.
They're not getting flushed down the toilet, and they want you arguing with each other. You see, what has to happen is this. People have to understand, I don't agree with the orange-haired, friggin' nose ring, bull ring nose woman. But what I do have to understand is our mutual survival depends upon each other.
Right.
That's why they said, united we stand, divided we fall. And who is the enemy? It's the oligarchs who are taking your power, who are both Republican and Democrat, who are in cahoots, and their kids belong to the same university and they drink martinis at the same country club.
Right. Right.
And they could care less about you. In fact, they laugh at you.
Well, yeah, sure.
And this is the sick part. And then we argue with the purple-headed lady and think that even though I'm not going to vacation with the purple-headed lady, but she's not my enemy. The enemy are the people who are funding millions of dollars who are impoverishing we the people.
That's right.
Get it through your head. That's the system. That's how it works.
Well, another thing here at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello, Way in the Breach. Do us a favor, hit a like, hit a subscribe, hit a share wherever you're watching us. Help us out a little bit. You know, the other thing is, it's like they're able to do this because unfortunately, too many people buy into ridiculous arguments or dangerous arguments, or dare I say, evil arguments, and try to stop people like us and many, 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 many others out there from saying the things that need to be said. This is a free marketplace of ideas. And believe me, here's a guy who does not believe in a free marketplace of ideas. Here's a guy who would take away the First Amendment right to free speech of every single American that he disagrees with. Why? Because he's evil.
What we're going to have to do is to start experimenting with new forms of journalism and how do we use social media in ways that reaffirm facts, separate facts from opinion. We want diversity of opinion. We don't want diversity of facts. That, I think, is one of the big tasks of social media. By the way, it will require some government, I believe, some government regulatory constraints around some of these business models in a way that's consistent with the First Amendment, but that also says, look, there is a difference between these platforms letting all voices be heard versus a business model that elevates the most hateful voices or the most polarizing voices or the most dangerous in the sense of inciting violence voices. And
now here's the thing about everything he just said. What about this, Barry? What about this? What if I determine, I determine that what you said on social media is hateful and inciting violence against me? I want to know about that scenario. Because you would say, well, I didn't mean to be hateful. Right, because you probably weren't. But what if I just said you were? Then are you going to sick the government? Should I be able to sick the government on you to shut you down? Don't you get it? Well, see, here's the thing, Joe. Here's the thing. He does get it.
I know. Joe, bingo. I was just going to say it. Joe, thank you.
That's exactly what he's saying.
This is what people don't get it. He's dancing around the subject. He should have just said this. I'm for censoring.
That's it.
Dog a dance. That is it. All the First Amendment crap. He does get it.
Right.
We don't get it. Joe, I'll be honest with you. There's times it's just hopeless. I pray I say this every day. It's all in the hands of Our Lady. I pray in the Immaculate Heart of Mary, I swear, because it's like people can't see through the fog. Joe, they can't see through the fog. And they're running. It's a train that's coming at us 90 miles an hour. And they can't see through the fog, and they are going to they've already wrecked the country. Let's be honest. Like I just said, big 3 cities, Joe. New York, Chicago, LA. They destroyed them. You might as well nuke them. LA and Chicago, they're a wasteland. New York is next. Wasteland. They're the economic drivers of America. They did that in plain sight.
Right.
People vote for it, and they think that they're actually doing something good. That's how good of the propaganda that they put out there. They actually think they're doing something good.
Bro, you're right. You're right. Let's keep it with Obama for a second. Let's talk about what you just said about Chicago. If you and I, because they say because of this, they say because this has anything to do with anything. If I look at Chicago and I say the cops have to go into the south side of Chicago, they have to start rounding up these gang members. They have to start prosecuting them, and they start putting them in jail for life for the murders and everything that they've committed. That you need more cops on the street. You need innocent people be able to own guns, to be able to defend themselves, and say a whole list of things that the mayor, let's say of Chicago, could do to alleviate the pain and suffering of the people of the south side of Chicago. Barack Obama would call what I just said racist.
100%.
And that it deserves to be taken down.
100%. Let's examine why. Because it's not about free speech. It's about power. You see, it's about power. It's about your speech is challenging my power. And some platforms, this is what he gets, people. The platforms are so big he can't control that message, and it's affecting his power. You see, that's why he's calling for this. It has nothing to do with misinformation, disinformation. It has everything to do with you're affecting me.
Right.
My plan, my power, my ideology, and I'm not having it. Do you understand? Like, this is what I'm saying.
Right.
Do people understand what's happening?
I think that
I don't think they do, Joe. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. Because it still goes on.
I think people understand what people of goodwill and the people out there that are turning the consciousness of America, raising it somewhat, abandoning what we would call traditional media, listening to social media. Here's the thing that they have to get through their head. There's going to require a sacrifice on your part too. Just because your union tells you to vote for that same person, don't do it. Just because the teachers union tells you to vote for that same person, don't do it. Just because the NRA tells you to vote for that same person, don't do it. Start voting, at least in primaries, for alternatives. For alternatives, if you really want to change. But you know what that's going to require? You're not going to get everything you want. The only issue in America where I want everything I want is abortion. And we'll play a clip from Tucker Carlson in a few minutes after we get done with Barry Obama. That's the only issue I'm unwilling to compromise on. Okay. And in a little bit of a secondary way, I would say more of the social issues where gay marriage and things like that. But baby killing has got to go. Let's have a good start. That's my intolerance. Everything else, as far as you want to tax the rich at a couple more percentage points than you do the middle class, or how about this? Dare I say? How about you cut spending and cut middle class taxes and leave the richest taxes where they are? I would be willing to sit at the table and find a common sense approach to all of that. Okay, and that might require sacrifice on my part. But what do we really sacrifice? Okay, what do we really in this country sacrifice? This ain't Calcutta. Not New York's about to be, but this ain't. Okay, we're not living in abject poverty. Tightening our belt means you're making a few less dollars till things get going, till the new regime and the new system takes hold and takes root, and then we start growing again. What does it really require? I'm pretty good with economics. I don't have to have gotten a PhD in economics to know. Listen, changes have happened all the time. We've gone through wars, depressions, recessions. People adapt, they adjust, everything settles, and then we start growing again. Why is it that people are so afraid to do that with the political system?
Because
In other
we're
words-
unmoored, Joe. Like the country, that's what I believe. The family has fallen apart and the country is unmoored. Mental illness is off the friggin' charts in America. People suffer from depression. Suicide is up. We are not the country we were 50 years ago, where we had a stable society, a little bit more stable than it is now. Let's put it that way. 100 years ago, it was a little bit more stable than that. We have to get back to basics. You talk about abortion, and we're going to talk about that in a second with Tucker Carlson. America's not voting for that right now. We have to do what they did. We have to get back to the long march through the institutions. We have to start teaching our children what it is young. We have to gain the youth. We have to start fighting it that way. We have to put plans in place where families can thrive and we become healthy. We have to bring basically religion back into the mainstream. That's how you fight the abortion front. But as far as the vote, America's not going to vote for a frigging anti-abortion bill. Even the reddest of red states are for abortion because we're not grounded in truth or in God, and it shows. It shows in everything. It bleeds in every aspect of our country. Our families are falling apart. Our children are lost. That is never going to happen unless we do what they did. We have to start slowly, incrementally forming our children. We have to get back to basics, put laws in place that benefit families, not paying for daycare.
Right.
We have to get where people can afford to have a family. Regular people get married. Dude, the average person in America right now gets married at 38 years old. How the frig are you going to start having kids? I got married at 43, but I'm a crazy Catholic and I got 5 kids in 10 years. Not everyone's like that, Joe. So my point is, you're going to get married at 38, a woman? How many kids you're going to have?
Right.
Like, let's be real.
No, listen, as far as all the things that sidetrack us here, it's not just about abortion, because Tucker Carlson touches on that too. This is a little bit longer of a clip, but we'd encourage everybody to watch it. So let's listen to this.
Totally agree with you. But abortion is murder, obviously, and everyone knows that. And people are so into it because it's the same ritual that every civilization ever been studied has engaged in, which is human sacrifice. Obviously, why did the Incas, and it wasn't just the Incas, it was my ancestors, the Vikings, all of them killed people in order to appease the gods and give themselves more power.
Abortion isn't ritualistic.
Are you joking? They had an abortion truck outside the Democratic Convention. While you're here, maybe you could get an abortion. No, it's the most crazed level of fanaticism I've ever seen. Like when I was a kid, they would say, well, you know, there's probably some 12-year-old farm worker child who got raped and she's pregnant. Like, would you say to her she has to carry the baby? And I'd be like, oh, that's so sad. I can't, it makes me really sad. And like, I don't think she should have an abortion, but I get it. Now it's just like, no, abortion is the only right you have. It's all you have. You don't have the right to keep you from jabbing a needle in your arm with some unknown poison made by Pfizer. You don't have that right. You don't have the right to say what you really think. The only right you have is to murder your own kids? That's dark, dude. Listen to yourself. That's the saddest thing that could ever happen. Killing your children? The only thing in life, and I'm telling you this as a young person, with the greatest sincerity, I mean this as a father of 4, the only thing that matters is not your stupid job at Citibank. Trust me, it doesn't matter. All that matters is having children, and your children are all that will matter to you. I don't care what you say. I've lived it.
Gonna leave it there because that is the point, more than putting that girl in her place, because we've said on the show here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe a million times, the left has lost every single argument on abortion. That's why they don't argue anymore.
No.
It's a matter of pure will. They don't believe in God, but nonetheless, there's no religious argument. They've lost a religious argument, moral argument.
But they don't care.
Legal argument, scientific argument, all the argument. But like you said, they don't care. But here's what I want to throw over to you. I know you feel the same way, but for our audience, I'm just going to throw it out there, is that the 3 most important things I ever did in my life, and I did a lot of stupid crap in my life before I did these 3 things. I went back to church and got right with Jesus. I met my wife and I married her. My wife and I listened to the church and decided to adopt a child, and having my son, our adopted son, who is my son, okay? Those are the three most important decisions I ever made in my life. And for all the ups and downs and everything else, okay, because it's a family and there's always issues and things like that. Those three things in that order is infused more meaning and purpose in my life than anything I've ever done. Everything I do, including this show, okay, including my relationship with you, my brother-in-law, okay, and our friendship. Every good thing that's happened in my life has been the good fruit of those three decisions. And having our son is the most fulfilling thing I've ever done, my wife and I have ever done in our lives.
Joe, what Tucker Carlson said, and he's speaking, to be honest with you, from the perspective of a 56-year-old man who's lived. I am 55. All of the stuff goes away. And he's basically saying that whatever you do, your job, your house, your car, all of it goes away. The only thing that remains when push comes to shove is your family and God. That's it. And if you don't have neither, you have nothing. Nothing. Do you think the state's going to take care of you when you're old? That doesn't happen. It's sad that we have bought the lie, but how do we fix it? We have to get back to basics. This is not brain surgery. Right now, people are not having that argument, though. I'm going to be honest with you. People tune you right out. I guarantee you many people who listen, they're talking about abortion because people are all about having sex outside of marriage. People are all about contracepting, and contraception is the beginning of abortion. It's the beginning. It's the seed. We have to basically get back to basics. We have to form our children correctly. And frankly, we're not doing that. They're in public school. Public school teaches about abortion. How the heck do you think the next generation is going to vote when this is being pumped into their head? Because not everyone can homeschool, and not everyone can send their kid to private school, and not everyone has access to charter schools. That's reality. And they understand what's going on. And this is where the church and families have to work together and provide an alternative to form the next generation. Because without the formation, they're going to do the same thing. And you can't right now put that out there and actually think that people are going to vote for it. They're not. I'll vote for it. But the American people are not, because they're unmoored. They're not grounded in God. They're grounded in nonsense. And it shows, Joe. Here's the thing. I say that all the time. It shows the consequences of our choices say everything. They say everything about the society, and they say everything about the political system. There's a saying, you get the politician you deserve, and you get it good and hard. And that's exactly what's going on. If you improve the society, we'll have a better group of politicians. But this is what we get, because this is who we are. We have to fix the basics. Basics. Go back to the basics, and we fix America. But many people are not interested in that, and that's sad. But I'm giving you the answers to the test, people. I'm telling you that right now. I am giving you the answers to the test.
No, listen, I can't even respond because that's a great way to end the show. Stick around. We got a clip for you from Ben Carson that you're going to love. We want to thank everybody for joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. We'll be going on live Sunday afternoons. Let's play like that Eastern-ish or Eastern time, but let's say afternoon-ish. It's better for Joe and I, quite frankly. So we want to thank you for sticking with us, for finding us on, on this Sunday. All of our friends in the chat room. Remember, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the share. If you're on YouTube, if you're watching us on YouTube, you could share. If you also have a Facebook, you could share it to Facebook, you could share it to X, you could share all over the place. Share. Help us out a little bit. If you like our show, we know that you're here, so you probably like our show. Help us get out to a wider audience. Remember, we have all of our Veritas Catholic interviews which Joe and I think are very good, very informative, great guests. We post those all on social media also, so take a look at those. Thanks once again. Stick around because we got Ben Carson for you. And remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.
Now, for many decades, there have been people who are trying to fundamentally change who we are. And there was a man by the name of Cleon Skousen who wrote a book called The Naked Communist in the 50s. And he exposed the things that were being done by the Marxists to gain control of our country. Such things as gaining control of the public education system and the teacher unions so that you could infiltrate and indoctrinate our young people. It was a radical leftist who said, give me your children to teach for 4 years, and the seed that I sow will never be uprooted. That's what's going on. They also had a goal of gaining control of the media and Hollywood so they could change the culture in America, making sexual perversion normal, natural, and healthy. And speaking of that, pushing God out of our society and changing the gospel to the social gospel. Have you noticed that a lot of preachers don't want to talk about what's in the Bible if it's counter to the social gospel? Well, I challenge the ministers out there to talk about what the Bible says and not what the leftists say. And get on board of the revival that is coming. We are not going to be able to stop it. You see evidence of it right here in the stadium. We're all going to be a part of it. I love the fact that Erica is going to take over, and we're going to grow the Turning Point to a very significant level. And I want us all to remember, you cannot be the land of the free if you're not the home of the brave. You got to stand up for what you believe in.